Greetings, brothers. Today we're going to be talking about starting a Blood Angels list using the FOMO box, or the Death Company box that came out last week. Obviously, we've got Lamartis on the screen, so grab yourself a coffee for all, and let's get fired in to... I'm going to make two lists, actually, using this new Blood Angels box, and what you can do if you want to build it into a somewhat competitive list. So this box was themed all about Death Company, but unfortunately there was no Death Company parts inside the box. More on that later. The blood of the Primarch Sanguinius runs within the veins of each and every Blood Angel, lending them a portion of his grace and nobility, yet cursing them with terrible flaws. The warriors of the Death Company have fallen victim to one of the flaws, and in doing so have descended into violent madness. Deployed as shock troops, the Death Company are shepherded into battle by Lamartis, Guardian of the Lost, and Astaroth the Grim, who's tasked to ensure these battle brothers of the Death Company are redeemed with a glorious death in battle. With Lamartis' litanies ringing in their ears, battle brothers and towering dreadnoughts hurl themselves forward and upon the foe and butcher them with savage fury. So if you don't know, we got 23 miniatures in this box. Lamartis, Astaroth, 10 Death Company on foot, 10 Death Company jumpbacks, the Death Company dreadnought. Can we build that into a somewhat competitive list? And that's what this is all about. I shared this photo on Reddit earlier this week. If you are building these guys and you're not sure how to build them, Astra and Lamartis literally have no options, so you're building them as is. With the Brutalis, I would give it the claws to unlock the ability to do that swipe attack, or I guess you could have called this the Death Company Dreadnought. It's essentially a Brutalis Dreadnought. You could run it as either the Brutalis or the Death Company Dreadnought. I'm going to actually build 5 of my Death Company Morons? Yeah, Morons. I'm going to build 5 of my Death Company Marines as assault intercessors on foot, and the reason behind that is, up until now, Death Company assault intercessors, which are the ones on foot, have been not really a competitive choice. They're 95 points. What you're getting for that is the Feel No Pain, a Power Fist, an Infernal Pistol, and an Eviscerator, and we all know how effective those assault intercessors are when they attach to Blood Angels characters. So if it was me and I was starting new as Blood Angels, I would build 5 assault intercessors, and the weapon options are here, and I would build 5 Death Company Marines on foot. If you really want to build all 10 as Death Company, you can. If you don't have any assault intercessors, there could even be an argument that you build all 10 of these as assault intercessors. And then for the unit that has the jump packs, you're going to build 10 with the various options. I think 2 models should have Eviscerators, 2 models should have Infernal Pistols and Power Fist, 1 should have a Heavy Bolt Pistol and Power Fist, and 2 Plasma Pistols. The reason I put the Plasma Pistols on other models is if you do overcharge them, then you have to remove the model that it was overcharged on, so you don't necessarily want to lose a Power Fist if you fail the hazardous roll on your Plasma Pistol. You could switch any combination of these pistols if you prefer, and the models with Eviscerators can also have pistols, like an upgraded pistol if you want. There's a holster on the model, so it's really up to you how to build it, but I try to clarify this how I would build it if it was brand new starting Blood Angels, and I think this makes a lot of sense. So what can you actually field from this box? Well, you can field Astaroth or Lamartis, because I think you want to run that 10-man squad with Jump Marines. I don't think you want to split it into 2 5s. So you have to pick one of the 2 characters. Astaroth has the more offensive profile, Lamartis has the more defensive profile. You can run 5 assault intercessors. You're going to run 5 Death Company Marines, and we will do that for the case of this video. And then I think at the moment, because this guy is coming in at 220 points, which is crazy, the Death Company Dreadnought, I think you want to play the Brutalis Dreadnought at 160. He still gets the advantage of the Blood Angels attachment in that he can still advance and charge, he can still rapid ingress, and I think a 160 point rapid ingress on this unit could actually be pretty interesting with advance and charge. So play him right now as a Brutalis Dreadnought. If he shakes up and the points land the way they are at 200 points, I would recommend that we do not play him. It's important to note that the points that were in the Codex book are likely to change when it gets its individual release. So for now, this video will be based heavily on the points in the Codex. I really hope that Sangreguard come down a little bit in points. I really hope this Death Company Dreadnought come down in points, because I can't see many people fielding them at the current points values. So this gives us 660 points, 665 if we took Astaroth as the more expensive character. So the steps for this video are a quick overview of Blood Angels for new players. How do we get to 1,000 points? How do we get to 2,000 points? How do we make this array of units that we've got above more competitive? And also some bonus points for the video is, can we include or buy the Combat Patrol, which we know is coming out later this year, which is a Captain, 10 Assault Intercessors, and 6 Sanguinary Guard. Can we make that work in field and build into a cohesive 2,000 point or 1,000 point army? So that's where this video is going. If you feel like that's going to be value to you, please consider hitting the like button or subscribe if you've never met me before. My name is John. I'm the Blood Angels Commander. I try and put out a video every single Friday helping you to get the best out of your Blood Angels. And apparently only like 10% of the people on my channel have clicked the bell, which is hiding behind my head. If you click that bell, I guess you get a notification on your phone every time I put up a new bit of content, so if that's something you're interested in, please do that as well. So there's two distinct ways, if you're new to Blood Angels, I would say there's two distinct ways to play Blood Angels, and I think both are pretty strong. There's the all melee, all charging, all infantry, all jump pack list, and over the last few years, this has been a very popular way to play Blood Angels. I want to give a shout out to Jack from the Art of War YouTube channel. He actually won the biggest event of the year. I think it was 2022 when he won the Las Vegas Open with an all melee Blood Angels list, and he ran a lot of units of Sanguinary Guard, Death Company, Assault Marines, which have since been replaced with Assault Intercessors with jump packs, but they were very similar. And a bit more recently, the way to make this list very strong is some people have been including some Impulsors and Ball Predators, but it is still primarily all melee, all charging, all infantry, all jump packs, right? So that is version 1 of how you can play Blood Angels. And then version 2, which is the way that I usually play Blood Angels, is combined arms approach. This is what I play. I bring a few shooting units to back up my melee list. My sort of philosophy on that is they can go after my shooting units, then my melee units take over the battlefield unchecked, or they are consumed with my melee units, my shooting units are ignored, and they do a lot of damage statistically. I usually pick units that can do a lot of damage over the course of 5 turns. So, and usually when I'm picking those shooting units, they're usually trying to fill a gap, right? So they're going for anti-armor or anti-elites. In the recent event that I did really well at and actually won, I took shooting based on both, right? Like I took Predator Destructors, which are good at both anti-armor and anti-elites. I have also been including an Impulsor and some more durable options to hold objectives in this combined arms approach. And my shooting units of choice have been those Ballistus Dreadnoughts, the Predator Destructors, and Vindicator tanks. And I think that there is good shooting options. I always want people to understand that Blood Angels, although they are sort of a melee-focused detachment of Space Marines, we are Space Marines, and Space Marines are known for their 3-up ballistic skill and pretty strong shooting. So I think when you mix that together in the combined arms approach, you can actually do really well. So let's talk about the detachment that I would recommend you start with, and that is the Liberator Assault Group. And the main bonus from this detachment is every time any Adeptus Astartes unit for your army is selected to fight, you're going to get +1 attack and +2 in the strength. Now, I figured out maybe like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that, that to get the absolute maximum out of this detachment, I recommend that you have 1,200 to 1,300 points of units that maximize this detachment bonus. So yes, it is okay to take shooting units. Yes, it is okay to take like transports, etc., etc. But like if you do not have 1,200 or 1,300 points worth of your army, getting the most out of this detachment, then you're almost doing a disservice to yourself. You're making it harder for yourself. If you only have 900 points that's getting your detachment rule, because arguably this is the strongest rule you have, so you need to be making the most of it. So this is like saying 60 to 70% of your army should be trying to take advantage of this rule. And when I changed this, my win rate went skyrocketed through the roof, right? I want to say before that, I was maybe doing like 60% win rate on Liberator Assault Group. Since then, I've probably done somewhere between like 85-90%, and that includes the 5-game streak that I had where I won my first 32-player event. So trying to tier to this, and I guess the 2 lists that we build, we're going to try and adhere to this. So if you're going to run combined arms, which I do, this is a very rough breakdown. These points are not precise. They're just like ballparks to shoot for. So I try to shoot for like 20% of fire support, 4 to 6 different scoring units, again around 20% of my list, some characters, around 15-20% in the list, and then melee units. A lot of melee units. Now, the interesting thing is in my list, some of my scoring units can do melee, some of my characters can do melee, so this is why none of these values add to 1,200-1,300 points. But last time I showed a slide similar to this, loads of people took this as a literal absolute breakdown of the individual points that I've spent, and then said, like, I got so many questions about it, and I was like, these are ballpark figures. These are figures that, like, shoot for, you know, 20% characters, but let's face it, all my characters are good in melee, right? Then shoot for your melee units, then shoot for your scoring units, and half my scoring units, and my scoring units I usually mean Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, Scouts, Outriders. In fact, all 3 of those units are pretty good in melee for Blood Angels. So try and like, when you're building a list, I try and have some philosophies like, we need a few characters, we need a lot of melee units, we need some units that can score, but don't take this literally. And obviously these percentages don't add to 100, and I got a lot of questions. Why don't your percentages add to 100? Because there's some overlap, right? Like, arguably a character could be a scoring unit could be a melee unit, right? If you are aiming for all melee, then I would guess simply ignore this long-range fire support section and spend those points on more melee units. Typically Sangre Guard, Death Company with Jump Packs. Other options could be Impulsors or Blade Guard Veterans. And I guess you can see here that Impulsors and Transports are not really mentioned. There is a bit of swing, right? Like, if you want to take an Impulsor, it's not going to be the end of the world. If you want to take a Transport or something, it's fine. There's a bit of leeway in every list, right? Like, I'm not saying my list is perfect. I'm just trying to give you some guiding principles. So those are the principles we're going to use to build their 665 points that we had earlier in the video out to 1,000 points. So to do that, I would add an Impulsor, a Captain on foot with an Infernal Pistol, and the Mastercrafted Chainsword. He is the new Blood Angels Captain. I would also add 5 Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs. I think they're an amazing unit. And I would add a squad of Infiltrators for home field or backfield screening, denial, and objective control. So why would I like these units, right? An Impulsor with a Captain with Assault Intercessors attached is very strong, right? The reason it's very strong is the Captain can come out of the Impulsor for 3 inches, he can move his 6 inches, he can advance and charge, and then he can, you know, so basically he advances 1d6, he charges 2d6. So if you're jumping out of the Impulsor, which keeps you safe for a couple of turns, you've probably got a pretty reliable, like, 20-inch threat range. You would need to roll 11 on 3 dice to get 20 inches. The average on 3 dice is 9.5. So I guess realistically he has 18-inch threat range. So wherever your Impulsor is, charging a target within 18 inches is going to be pretty high probability. You can reroll all your wound rolls if you fight enemies on objectives. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 if you don't, because that's the Assault Intercessor's rule. That Captain can change the number of attacks he can get once per game to +3 attacks and become devastating wounds. So the second he comes out of that Impulsor, you YOLO him into an enemy, which you just charge an enemy you can do. You play your finest hour to give you devastating wounds and bonus attacks, and then you can reroll a bunch of wounds looking for 6s to do a bunch of dev wounds. It's a very meta combo. We actually see some people run 2 of these. So 2 Impulsors, 2 Captains on foot, 2 squads of 5-man Assault Intercessors. Like I said, the Infiltrators have a 12-inch deep strike denial. You put them on home field objective, you spread them out because coherency lets you spread each model 2 inches apart. The 12-inch bubble is around each of them, so if you daisy-chained all of them in a row, 10 inches, you can create like a bubble of like 22 inches long, 32 inches long, sorry, and 12 inches wide. So you can screen off like a third of the board just with that one squad of assault infiltrators. You make it super difficult for your opponent to come in behind your lines. So if you're always able to push forward and make charges with Blood Angels, that's the strength of Blood Angels, right? We get those extra strength, we get those extra attacks on charging, so we always want to be charging. We don't want any shenanigans behind us, and that's why I take infiltrators in competitive play. I think they're very, very good for 100 points. Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs are an amazing unit for the cost. They can bully enemy infantry. You're going to get 20 Chainsword attacks. You're going to get 4 Power Fist attacks. You're going to do mortal wounds on the charge. They're very mobile with their 12-inch move, and they really can bully enemy infantry, right? Like, statistically, I guess, if you charge enemy infantry, you're probably going to end up with something like 16 hits. You'll be strength 6 for most of those hits. So if it's enemy infantry, even T5, you're wounding on 3s. They're going to make some failed saves, and you're going to do some mortal wounds. And they're also very good at performing actions because they jump around 12 inches. I run 2 units of Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, but I totally recommend 2 or 3 in every list. They only need to be in 5s. You don't need to take them in 10s. They're a really good unit for 5 and 80 points for Blood Angels. So at that point, we have an 1,000 point list. So now I would start to try and build it out to 1,500 point list. So you would add in Dante and the Sanguinary Guard. Now, that's 430 points. We would add in another unit of Assault Intercessors. I guess the reason that I add the Assault Intercessors I've just explained, but Dante and the Sanguinary Guard are nightmarish for certain opponents to deal with. They are -1 to hit and -1 to wound in melee. I think that there's certain enemies like orcs that these are very, very good at, because -1 to hit puts them on a pretty bad hit roll, and -1 to wound can actually put them on a pretty bad wound roll as well, certain orc units. And I guess any unit that's not really a dedicated melee unit is going to struggle if they ever end up with melee with the Sanguinary Guard. Now, the Sanguinary Guard also do get, if you include Dante's attacks, you do get 39 AP3 2 damage attacks. They are a lot of points. They do have 3 wounds per model and an invulnerable save now. They can get a Feel No Pain against the Mortals from the Blood Angel stratagem. But for 430 points, 39 AP3 attacks is pretty meaningful. You can give them +1 to wound, you can give them lethal hits. Dante obviously has lethal hits. And I think Sanguinary Guard might come down like 5 points a model. I think they would be pretty competitive at like 270 points. I think 300 is high, but I think they probably are almost playable at 300. So I think if they came down to like 270, they'll be good. But for now, I think Sanguinary Guard are such an iconic unit. I have a feeling that they want to make Sanguinary Guard a more positive force in the meta, because if we look at since 10th edition has been out now for like 15 months. Very, very few people have played Sanguinary Guard at tournaments. I'm definitely the exception to the rule, having won a tournament with the Sanguinary Guard. Most of the time, we don't see anyone fielding them. It would actually be really interesting to see how many people won tournaments with the Sanguinary Guard in 10th edition. I guess you could probably count it on one hand. A lot of people were going heavy on the Death Company, and we know the Death Company have lost a lot of their weapon options. The Sanguinary Guard are in an interesting place in that they got finally given an invulnerable save, but you lost a few models. I think that they're going to get a bit of resurgence with this new codex, and I kind of hope to see more of them on the table when the Combat Patrol launches. So I'll be waiting to get the Combat Patrol, or I would be thinking about getting those new Sanguinary Guard whenever they came out. If we're going to build this into all melee, like how would I build the last 500 points of the list into all melee? Well, I would add probably that second Impulsor. I would actually put my Death Company Marines on foot from the box at the very start of the video. And then I would have a Chaplain attached to them. Chaplains are very good for removing the negatives from the Red Thirst, and also giving those Death Company units objective control. And in this list, we would actually have 4 Death Company units. The Death Company Dreadnought, the Death Company on foot, the Death Company in the air, and I've added another Death Company unit in the air, just another 5-man. I would actually add the 3rd unit of Assault Intercessors. I think I would add Outriders and Scouts. Outriders are a very useful unit. Toughness 5, good for just sitting on an objective, good with advance and charge as well. And Scouts give you some redeploy, which can be very useful for secondary scoring, and also they give you that forward deploy. So if there is an objective in no man's land you feel unconfident about getting to, if you don't feel confident about getting to, Scouts can sometimes shore that up for you. So why would I like this in all melee, right? We add more Jump Intercessors. We add more Death Company. The Chaplain on foot in the Impulsor gives that Death Company unit on foot objective control, and it gives them +1 to wound. And potentially once per game, you can also remove Battle Shock at the start of any turn on a unit within 12 of that Chaplain, which is pretty useful. The Scouts provide that forward screening. You've got another Impulsor, which can do actions and can jump about. And like I said, Outriders are fast, cheap, and they have durability to contest objectives in the early game. So what does the all melee list look like then? And this is it. This is precisely 2,000 points. So we keep Astrath, and we've added the 10 Death Company from the start. You could save 5 points here and take Lamartas if you want to go more defensive. We've got Dante in the 6th Sanguinary Guard. We've got those 3 units of Jump Intercessors. We've got an Impulsor with 5 Assault Intercessors, that Captain on foot with the Infernal Pistol and the Mastercrafted Chainsword. And we've also added Raged Fueled Warrior to him. So when you do go to 10 attacks once per game, you actually get Sustained 3. So every 6 procs into 3 additional attacks. So that if you were able to use the Oath of Moment on his charge target, you could reroll all your dice looking for 6s to hit to proc a bunch of additional hits. Then you could reroll a bunch of the wounds because the Assault Intercessor is looking for 6s for 2 devastating wounds per time. The second Impulsor has that Chaplain and 5 Death Company. Again, 18-inch threat coming out of the Impulsor could be pretty decent. Potential from Advance and Charge. I think I would run that Death Company Dreadnought as the Brutalis Dreadnought for now. I think the Death Company one at 220 is just a crazy amount of points. Brutalis Dreadnought with Advance and Charge is pretty good, and he can do a lot of mortals on the charge, what with his baked-in ability to do mortals, and also his tank shot for potentially another 6 mortals. So you can do 12 mortals on the charge if you get lucky with this guy's dice rolls. You got a unit for Outriders for scoring, and you got a unit for scouts for redeploy. You got a unit of infiltrators to make sure our backfield is pretty safe. You got another small unit of Death Company. Think of these guys as just a missile. Again, they would bully enemy infantry, but maybe this one, because it's got no OC, it's not led by a chaplain, maybe you can just put it in a difficult situation to slow the enemy down, or to just, chip off some wounds that something you're going to have to kill in a few turns. And then, like I said, the Rage-Fueled Warrior. So this is like 2,000 points on the nose. If you bought the Combat Patrol, you would essentially be able to add the 6 Angry Guard from the Combat Patrol, you'd be able to add the Captain from the Combat Patrol, and then the 10 Assault Intercessors you get in the Combat Patrol. If you could find 10 jetpacks for them, that would be brilliant. But I guess finding jetpacks, unfortunately Games Workshop don't sell jetpacks on their own for Assault Intercessors, but if you could find a way of getting 10 Assault Intercessors with jetpacks, then you could actually do really well and save a lot of money buying the Combat Patrol. If you want to do combined arms like I do, the way I would do it is on that last slide where we added like Outriders, Scouts, Impulsor, Chaplain, Death Company Marines, and Assault Intercessors. I would still add the Outriders. I would still potentially add that second Impulsor, because I think Impulsors are a great scoring unit. They're a bit of a nuisance. The opponent doesn't want to shoot them. I'd add maybe 2 Gladiator Lancers. They are very good at anti-tank. There's obviously other choices, Ballistus Dreadnoughts, Predator Destructors, but here's the thing. If you're just going to be buying Primaris units and you're worried about Firstborn units getting retired, then Gladiator Lancers are a new tank. They're unlikely to be retired, so I would probably recommend you go for Gladiator Lancers. They've got great reliability for anti-tank. I guess a Ballistus Dreadnought might be weaker against tanks, but it might be better against elites, because you're going to get more shots, right? We already talked about how good Outriders were. This could be any scoring unit. You don't need to take the Impulsor. I just like the idea of the Impulsor. But my tournament list that I did 2 units of Outriders, I did 2 units of Jump Intercessors, I did a unit of Scouts and an Impulsor. So I had 6 scoring units, and honestly, that felt good. I felt like I could have possibly done with one more, but I think at that point, when you're paying, I guess, 6 times 80 is like 465 points on scoring units, I don't know if you can go much higher than that. And in doing this, we also leave 10 points, right, to create that Rage-Fueled Captain, which is really nice. So the combined arms list looks something like this, where you've got Astaroth and Death Company, you've got Dante and the Sanguinary Guard. Instead of 3 units of Jump Intercessors, you have 2. We have the same Impulsor, Assault Intercessor bomb with that Captain who has the Rage-Fueled Warrior. The second Impulsor has the Death Company Marines, but no Chaplain, so unfortunately these guys are OC0. We still have the Brutalis Dreadnought. We still have a squad of Outriders, we still have the squad of Infiltrators, but in the backfield, I guess we've got 2 Lancers. Lancers have a 72-inch cannon that is like Strength 14, AP 4, I believe, D6 plus 3. Now, its main weakness is it only gets 2 shots, and when you only have 2 shots, you usually end up either missing with 1 or failing to wound with 1. So that's why I really recommend 2. Because that way you can afford to fail with wound with 1, and you still make your opponent take a good few saves, and each save is D6 plus 3. So if they fail a couple of times, it's like a minimum of 8 damage. On a good roll, you could probably do 18 damage. So potentially with a CP reroll there, you could do a lot of damage to the enemy. But I actually only own 1 Gladiator Lancer myself, and I don't actually recommend taking 1 Lancer. Well, sometimes people take a single Lancer as the fire support. I really don't recommend that. I don't mind like a Lancer plus a Ballistus Dreadnought, but I think if you just have that single Lancer, because some people do that, 160 points, 1 Lancer, I think you end up either failing 1 hit, failing 1 wound, and then you actually don't kill anything. and then you're in a really awkward spot in the next turn. Like, do I shoot the same target again that I didn't finish in the first turn? Or do I shoot something else? And then possibly you end up shooting the same target again, and the same thing happens. You're a little bit unlucky, and then you've basically gone through 2 turns, and your Lancer hasn't killed anything, and you've been spending 160 points, and you've got no return after 2 turns, even though you've got 72 inches range. So I really think if you are going to run some fire support, it needs to be more than 1, and I think that goes for any vehicle. You can't just run 1 and expect results. So how would we make this potentially more competitive? And this goes for both lists, right? Because both lists have 5 Death Company Marines, and both lists have the Brutalis Dreadnought. I don't think these units see very much competitive play. It's early days of the new detachment. Maybe people are going to be running Brutalis Dreadnoughts. I've got one that I need to try now. But units that I might consider replacing these with that I know are good, and I see in competitive lists, and we see doing well in events, and I run them to events as well, I've done well with them, is Blade Guard are a very good unit for Blood Angels. Small squads of Sangre Guard might be very useful as well. More Jump Death Company are obviously going to be useful. Company Heroes, they do require a captain to attach to, but Company Heroes are super durable, and they're quite a damaging unit. I've been really impressed with the Company Heroes overall. They were like an MVP for me in my tournament list. And then a Repulsor, a nice cheap way of keeping Dante and the Sangre Guard safe. And when they come out their Impulsor, they get incredible threat range, because Dante gives you +1 to advance on charge. So when you come out a Repulsor, you disembark 3, then you move 12. So you're 15 inches forward straight away. You can pay the stratagem for advance and charge, so you're advancing D6 +1. That would be an average of 4. And then you would charge for 2d6 +1, which would be an average of 8. So basically, like, an average threat range of them coming out the Impulsor is 27 inches. That's pretty scary. And that's with completely average dice rolls. Obviously, you can swing low, but you can swing high. So Dante coming out of the Repulsor with the 6 Sangre Guard, and they fit nicely inside. That's a reason to do that as well. And the cool thing, I suppose, is like, if you play this where turn 1 your Repulsor just goes forward to set this up, you know, like the turn 2 mega charge that I just talked about, then I try and throw something else in the Repulsor, something slower, like Blade Guard, like Assault Intercessors on foot, and give them a ride forward in turn 2, right? So as soon as Dante and his squad have left the Repulsor, something else will take their place and get a ride forward in the battlefield. And Blood Angels do have some units that benefit from getting a ride, one of which would be those Blade Guard veterans. So if you are going to start thinking about, like, you know, I've bought the Combat Patrol, I've bought my other units to round out 2,000 points, but what are the units that are weakest in the 2,000 point lists that we shared here? I think it is the Death Company Marines, and I think it is the Brutalis Dreadnought. So is it worth getting the Combat Patrol? I mean, I think the 6 Sangre Guard are going to be useful, and the captain is going to be useful. And my understanding is that 3 Sangre Guard are probably going to be like 30, 35 bucks. So 2 of these would be 70. Usually a captain on his own is like 25, so that would be about 95. The Combat Patrol is probably going to cost 95. So basically at that point you're getting 10 Assault Intercessors for free. Either flip those Assault Intercessors on eBay and buy Assault Intercessors with jump packs, or find a way of getting those jump packs. I actually made a video asking Games Workshop to sell Primaris jump packs on their own, because they used to sell sprues of 5 regular jump packs from Firstborn Marines. Maybe if you got some Firstborn Marines, you could pull the jump packs off them. They honestly don't look too bad on Primaris Marines. But I did make a video asking them to sell those jump packs, but it's not something that they've done yet, and I haven't heard anything about it. So, yes, the Combat Patrol I think will be worth it for new players. However, I do not recommend having 20 Intercessors on foot, even if there's a variant of like Death Company Intercessors on foot. Having played Blood Angels now for like 7 years in a row, I can't ever remember fielding more than 10 Assault Intercessors in a single list. Because I was laughing the other day saying that I have 90 Assault Intercessor models now. Or, sorry, I have 80. If I buy the Combat Patrol to get the new Sangre Guard and the Captain, which will probably save me money, then I'll have 90. I've never once run a list with more than 10. And I can't really see... I mean, they're a decent unit, right? But they're eclipsed by the Assault Intercessors with the jump packs. They're usually eclipsed by Death Company with jump packs. So they're limited, and you're probably going to need an impulsor, possibly 2 if you want to run 10, so you can split them across 5s. So if you are buying the Combat Patrol, just be aware, don't make yourself 20 Assault Intercessors, because honestly I think 10 of them are going to sit on the shelf and do nothing. But hey, the meta will change. With the new codex, with the new lists, things might change. So I'm not the be-all and end-all. I'm just giving you my advice and my experience over the last 7 years. And that is this week's tactics video. Now, what I'll do here is, I guess, here's the list. If you want to take a screenshot of the combined arms list, go for it now. If you want to take a screenshot of the all melee list, go for it now. So these are your 2 lists. And if you want to take a screenshot of how to build all these models, now is the time. And that's it. That is this week's tactics video. I know it's very focused on new players. I've been promising all the new channel members, and we've had like 1,000 members in the last month. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and giving me your time of day. I am here every week. I take questions. I have a live stream every Sunday night where we talk about Blood Angels lists. You can send me your list. I'll try and give you suggestions on how to make it better. You can support the channel using there's a bunch of affiliate links in this video description. There's also the Patreon link. There's also the join button here on YouTube. And I do really appreciate everyone who supports me. But if you can't support me through any of those, you can also support me by sending me your likes, or sharing this video with a friend that might like it. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, leave me a comment. I do reply to a lot of the comments as much as I can. And obviously there's more Blood Angels content coming soon. I've been live a bunch of times this week. I've got all the new Blood Angels models to play with. I'm painting Assault Intercessors, so I'm sure I'll catch you guys in the live chat. Thanks ever so much for watching and getting to the end of the video. I hope you guys have a great weekend. By the blood are we made strong. See you later, brothers. Peace.